This video is to allow you to correct the homework problems 823 through 828 from this section. So for 823, these are two histograms showing how precisely Lou threw 50 darts with his right hand and then 50 with his left hand. So the idea here is, if we look at his right hand, he had one dart that was between 0 and 1.5 inches from the bullseye, and two darts were between 1.5 and 3 inches from the bullseye, and four darts were between 3 and 4.5 inches, and so forth. And then over here, this is how he did with his left hand. So the first thing they wanted you to do was to estimate what the box plots would look like, but I am allowing that to be extra credit. You do not have to do that. But they do want you to compare the center. When you think about center, think about like measure center, like mean, median, shape, spread, and outliers between them, and then decide if he's more precise when he throws with his right hand or his left hand. So again, this part is extra credit. You would need to help figure out or explain how you made that estimated parallel box plot. That part is extra credit. You do not have to do that. What you do want to represent is these other answers. So what you find is that his median shot for his left hand, which is here, is a little bit closer to the bullseye. Because again, remember, closest to the bullseye would be 0 inches away from the bullseye. So you can see he has more values that are closer to that. The distribution of his shots is symmetric and single-peaked, and that's specifically with his left hand. And the distribution is skewed with the left hand. Okay. And then Lou has more tosses closer to the bullseye with the left hand. There did not seem to be any real outliers, but some people feel that these might be considered an outlier on his left hand. And then what you find is that he's more consistent with his left hand because more of his shots are closest to the bullseye. For 824, find the missing values on this diagram and assume that the line is evenly divided. So what we have is 0 to 100% along the bottom here, and then 0 to 1.0 or 1 along the top. So if we can tell by counting how many spaces there are, we can see that each of these spaces represents 1/10 or 10%. So therefore A would be 1, 2, 3/10. B is 4/10. C then is 40%. And D is 15%. Now D is 15% because this is D and this is D, and they're showing you that two D's together make 30%. So if two D together make 30%, each D must represent 15%. 825, Joaquin has agreed to lend his younger brother $45 so he can buy a new tank for his pet lizard. Joaquin is charging his brother 2% simple interest. If the brother pays him back in 6 months, how much will Joaquin get back? So we know our simple interest formula is interest equals principal, which means how much in this case he borrowed him, times rate, which is 2% as a decimal, times time, which is 6 months. So $45, 2% as a decimal is 200 times 6. All three of these are getting multiplied, which on your calculator is 5.4, but of course with money we'd say that's $5.40. That's how much interest he'll get, but he also will get the $45 back that he borrowed. So $45 plus $5.40 equals $50.40. For 826, Michaela holds her state high school record for the 500-meter freestyle swimming event. She can swim that event in 4 minutes and 50 seconds. So at the same rate, how far would she swim in 10 minutes? So one way you could do this is to set it up as a proportion. She can do 500 meters in 4 and 5/6 minutes. All right, 5/6 is 50 seconds out of 60 seconds simplified. And then we want to know how many meters could she do in 10 minutes. So again, you could do your cross products. 500 times 10 would be 5,000. And that would equal 4n56 times our unknown value. And then our goal is to find that unknown value, so you can use whatever variable you want for that, x or m or s for swim. You're going to divide both sides by 4 and 5 6. So you're going to take 5,000 divided by 4 and 5 6. And then, of course, when you divide this by 4 and 5 6, you'll get just x, which is our goal. So you end up getting that should swim 1,034 and 48 hundredths meters. Now, if you went with a decimal for 4 and 5 6, it'd be 4.83 repeating. And you could do that. But again, if you especially have use of the fractional calculator, this technique is just as easy to divide by the mixed number. And typically, fractions are more precise than decimals, especially if they don't terminate. 827. Mrs. Chen has two brothers. Mark is 7 years older than Mrs. Chen, and Eric is 11 years younger than Mrs. Chen. The sum of all three of their ages is 149. They want you to find the age of Mrs. Chen. So again, even though they suggest the 5D process, I did it algebraically. If you're going to do the 5D process, make sure you're showing all those steps. So, describe, draw, define, do, decide, and declare. So I went with it algebraically. You still have to define your variable though, but Mrs. Chen's age would be x. Mark's age, since he's 7 years older than her, would be x plus 7. And Eric's age, since he's 11 years younger than her, would be x minus 11. And then the sum of all three of their ages equals 149. So then you combine your like terms. You go through your algebraic process to solve. And you end up finding that Mrs. Chen is 51 years old. For 828, you need to make sure that you solve showing your steps and also show your check. So for this first one, to get x by itself, you would add 1 1/4 to both sides, and you get x equal to 3 3/4. And then for your check, just show that when you put 3 3/4 in place of x, that the left side and the right side both equal 2.5. For the second one, you would start by subtracting 2x from both sides. That gives you then 3x equals 12, divide by 3, x equals 4. And again, go to the original equation and show that when you put 4 in place of x here and here, that the left side equals the right. And for this one, you'd add 14 and 6/10 to both sides. And you get x equal to 22 and 62/100. And again, make sure you show your check.